Actually, I'm glad you brought this up. We got a couple minutes here. Two things. One, Eric, you asked a question last week. I made an example for it. It looks like we're not going to get to it today. We will cover it, but the code is already available as 8, and I will run it briefly. Two, I'm glad you brought that up because let's say you are doing a release of a new version of your app. One way to handle this is, let's say version 2 of your app has got very different functionality for some feature. How do you tell the app, if you're version 1, do the old thing. If you're version 2, then look for this data, convert it, and do the new thing. So in other words, you're taking a user who's running version 1, you'd like to keep their data, but version 2 stores it a different way and does something new with it. How do you get that user's old data into the new version? And the way to do it is to use a feature like this. And in your first version, if you're thinking forward, you simply have a variable called, let's say, like app version. We'll call it 1. And then, this isn't exactly right, but the point is you can put a variable in your code that checks that is the current app version, and then upon discovering that it's got a new version compared to the stored value, it will run a piece of code to do a conversion of the old data, and then set the new value for app version, which basically says forever and ever after this, I don't need to modify this anymore. This is version 2. I've already done the conversion, so the current version matches what's stored in my defaults or in my data, and I'm done. I don't know if this made sense.
It'd be interesting to run a beacon type situation where you check the app version of all your existing players and just figure out every time they load the app, who's on version what, and get a kind of a breakdown of your community, your population, and see where they are.
Yep. I don't think I did a good job of explaining that. All right, this is what happens when you on-the-fly things. That's okay. I wanted to run the example real fast here. Sorry.
I think that makes sense to me. I don't know if it made sense to anybody else. I think it makes sense.
All right. So last week, Eric asked me about sprites, but it was more generally applicable to objects and managing them. And I think the problem you were having was you were creating sprites and they're not being managed by the scenes. You weren't getting them into the scene object. And so I will not go through all the code here, but this example 8 shows you what happens if you do it incorrectly. Then it shows you 3 ways, which are, one is just an okay way to handle it, one is a good way to handle it, and one is what I consider the best way. In the wrong case, when I click, let me reload the app. When I click on wrong, what's going to happen is it's going to load up that scene, and the scene will create a running horse sprite, which comes out of the Corona examples. There's an example out there that where one of the Corona examples where they have a horse animation. And because it's doing it wrong, the horse is going to appear right away, even before the scene gets transitioned over. And what that's indicating is that the horse is created, it's not being managed, so it doesn't slide over, it doesn't do anything. And when I click on back, the horse is still there. It's no good. This is not what I wanted. What I really wanted to see was I click OK, and the horse will slide in from the right in the scene that it's supposed to be in. And then when I click back to go back to the menu loads up. Whereas good and best will also have exactly the same behavior, but the distinction of good and best, right, was that good is a module that allows you to pass in the scene that you want to put the object in, and best is a module that does the same thing, but it also provides you one more thing. It provides you a way to completely unload the module, if you wish. And so we'll cover this next time. But for people who want to jump ahead, wrong creates it, does not insert it in a scene. OK creates it, inserts it in the scene, so now it's managed and everything is perfectly fine. Good shows you how to create a module for creating sprites and allow that module to place the object in the scene instead of you doing it manually. And Best does the same thing as Good and also provides a way of cleaning up all the memory. And this is for people who do, this is targeting people who do, for example, storybook apps or any other situation where they've got lots and lots and lots of sprites. So pages 1 through 5 use the same sprites, and then they're done. They're never going to use them again. Pages 6 through 10 use some more sprites. If you don't unload this stuff from memory, your memory footprint starts to get larger and larger and larger and larger. So the Best example provides you, I show you how to remove everything from memory, including the sprites. So it doesn't actually remove them, but what it says to Lua and Corona is it says, if you want to remove these, you can do it. I'm not using them anymore. And that includes the module itself. Everything is kicked out of memory.